So, with the immense success of Arcane, more and more newcomers have been pulled into the world of Runeterra. And don't get me wrong, that's great. Riot really has gone out of their way to craft such an intricate and unique fantasy setting, full of interesting characters, creatures, and environments. Even if they sometimes drop the ball with certain stories or hold themselves back with corporate mandates. Regardless, it does please me to see more outsiders jumping into the lore of this world. Even if you don't play League, and you really shouldn't unless you want to get into the competitive scene, there's a lot to enjoy, though there's also a lot to catch up on. One of the most frequently asked questions I hear from friends and people who only know Runeterra through Arcane is, how does magic work? That is a very simple question with a very complicated answer. Arcane leads newcomers to understand that magic comes from crystals and can be harnessed through runes, and that's not technically wrong, but there is a lot more to it than that. There are many different kinds of magic on Runeterra, and while we won't go into all of them in this video, I'm going to do my best to give a brief overview of the various arcane arts that exist in this world. Hopefully, that will put some things into context and make it easier for newcomers to immerse themselves into Runeterra. So, with all that being said, let's begin. So, in the context of Runeterra, what is magic? Thankfully, a champion by the name of Aurelian Soul actually gives us a relatively simple answer with one of his in-game voice lines. Mages are infants, grasping at the machinery behind reality. In other words, magic is the ability to literally control reality itself. Space, time, matter, energy. Those who wield magic bend the very laws of nature and existence to their will. In other words, it's the very power that writes and rewrites the laws of League's mythos. So, wait, does that mean the people at Riot who keep retconning things are mages? Huh. Anyway, as broken as that sounds, most mortal species aren't capable of wielding magic on quite the same level as godlike beings such as Soul. For people residing on Runeterra, you could say that magic generally falls into one of three broad categories: elemental, spiritual, or celestial. Now, all magic supposedly draws from this primal energy called mana, and there are some mages capable of tapping into raw mana for their spells. Those who do manage such a feat generally fall into the higher end of the power spectrum, but such individuals are few and far between. That said, what we see in Arcane does appear to be the manipulation of raw magical energy, since pure mana is typically depicted with the vibrant blue glow found in Hextech. As impressive as that is, though, Hextech only scratches the surface of what that power is really capable of, and most mages have to rely on one of the aforementioned types of magic to cast their spells. First up is elemental magic, probably the most self-explanatory. Elemental magic involves, well, controlling the elements. Wind, fire, lightning, water, earth, you get the idea. Generally, those who practice this sort of magic are born with some kind of affinity to it, like Annie with fire magic or Lux with light magic. In some rare cases, it's possible to hold an affinity for multiple elements, as we see with Kiana. Those who use elemental magic typically have some sort of catalyst to channel it through, like a wand or staff, but it can be wielded on its own once you reach a certain proficiency for it. It should be noted that all elemental magic on Runeterra comes from these things called the World Runes, which are basically League's Infinity Stones, I guess. Anyone who gets their hands on these can conjure massive storms, summon earthquakes, cause infernos, basically set off the apocalypse in a dozen different ways. Thankfully, there's a guy called Rise going around trying to hide these things away from mortals who would misuse them. But even if the world runes themselves are hidden away, their power still flows all across Runeterra's physical realm, since it's heavily implied that these things are what created the planet in the first place. Next up is spirit magic, a somewhat more vaguely defined realm of the arcane. Spirit magic comes from the spirit world, and generally seems to relate to more abstract concepts. Fairies, souls, demons, thoughts, dreams, emotions. Manipulating these very concepts is the essence of spirit magic, although it's not something to be meddled with lightly. The spirit world doesn't operate on the same rules as the physical realm. Ideas like time, space, and even gravity are in constant flux. Now, we do know that the spirit world can be divided into various subsections, like the Bandlewood and the Realm of Death, but it's fair to assume that these don't have clear-cut boundaries between them like continents do in the physical realm. This is most apparent with the Glade, the supposed heart of the spirit realm, in which reality is so malleable that it can literally be changed with an errant thought. Basically, spirit magic is not something you should meddle with unless you have a clear understanding of what you're doing. Otherwise, you very much run the risk of being possessed by a demon or trapped in a world beyond your understanding. Last but certainly not least is celestial magic, the magic of the cosmos. This is, effectively, the magic used by Runeterra's gods. Those who wield celestial magic harness the powers of the sun, moon, and stars, as well as other celestial bodies. Now, mortals can use celestial magic, but most are only capable of wielding a small fraction of its power. I mean, this is the magic used to make constellations and open portals across the universe. In fact, under the right circumstances, it can even turn humans into demigods. It's also the only thing we know of that's really effective for fighting back the void, an all-consuming eldritch horror that wants to devour reality itself, so, kind of a big deal. So, in summary, magic is the ability to rewrite reality in Runeterra, and it draws from a form of energy called mana. Magic generally comes in one of three categories, though it should be noted that these categories aren't exclusive to one another. We have seen instances of celestial magic combining with spiritual magic, or spiritual with elemental. At the end of the day, how magic is used and what it's used for depends on who's using it. There have been entire nations in Runeterra that thrive on the use of arcane power, and others that have been wiped off the map because of it. If you think Hextech was impressive, believe me, friends, you haven't seen anything yet. Welcome to Runeterra, the world of endless magic. Please enjoy your stay.